Well, hello everybody. It's me, Mitch, back in the kitchen after an exciting and an eventful weekend. I'm going to cook myself some breakfast here. Bacon and eggs, my first meal of the day. Got myself a gorgeous ribeye right here for dinner. It's funny to even name these meals because they don't most often come at traditional times. But it's a habit. It's a habit. I want to talk about some final thoughts and observations about the adventure that I had this weekend. Going over to Orlando, immersing myself in a sea of tourists and humanity. It's a reason why most of us stay away from that part of town, where all the theme parks are and the convention centers, because it's just mayhem. And as I've said before, for somebody like me who's been a increasing loner over the years, I don't do well in big crowds. And I commented, I think it was on the live stream, but maybe in a video, that having run across a big crowd for the first time in God knows how many years, the difference in the amount of weight and the amount of obesity that was widespread in these big crowds was mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. I never saw so many electric scooters. I'd be surprised if that hotel didn't rent out every scooter that they had in sight. There were that many sick, obese people on vacation or for a conference. It's sad to see. Sad to see. My natural instinct is to want to help all these people. But you can't help them. They don't want help. They don't want to know about it. They want their comforting food. They don't want to give up their social life. Can't blame them. Most of us are like that too. The conference itself, as much as I hate to say it, other than a few high points for me, was incredibly disappointing. Nothing like it was last year. And I think the main difference between this year and last year was, well, there were two big differences. Number one, the attendance. I don't think they had even half the people attend as last year. And number two, the absence of pretty much all of the well-known people that I ran into last year and really enjoyed meeting and talking to. Ken Berry and Nisha, Dave Feldman, Annette Bosworth, Dr. Boz. And she was here. She was at the conference this year. I never saw her. Most of the names of the speakers, we had Dr. Crow, Dr. Hampton. I did get to meet him. I don't think any of those people really was familiar with me or my channel. I can understand that. I was approached by maybe a half a dozen people who recognized me and introduced themselves. And I had some really nice conversations with them. And it was gratifying. I thoroughly enjoyed that. But most of the time, when you looked around in the area where the end of the hall there, where they had their presentation room set up. Last year, there was 2 or 3 rooms all going at the same time, and you could choose which one of the YouTube stars or influencers you wanted to listen to. And this year, they only had enough attendance to not even completely fill a room. Last year, these rooms were filled to standing room only. There were people lining the backs because there weren't any chairs. This year, the rooms never got more, that one room never got more than, let's say, 3/4 full, if that. There was nothing that any of the vendors there were selling that interested me at all. It was all based at keto. And I thought, well, I guess it has to be, because if this was a carnivore conference, who the hell would sponsor it? Who the hell would help pay for it? Because believe me, it's very expensive. And I admire the people that put this on, because it's very expensive and time consuming to arrange something like this. Arrange it with the hotel, arrange a block of rooms at a discounted rate. Handle all the registrations and the attendees' questions. Print up all the credentials and badges and handle the registration. I mean, it is a lot of people. They were great people who put a lot of work into this. Do I regret going? No, not at all. Not at all. The highlight of my trip for me was the time I spent with Dr. Kiltsey. A very, very interesting and warm man. Very, very nice. We got along great. He had to leave early because of the incoming storm, and a lot of the attendees had to leave early because of the way that they played up the hazards and dangers. People who had flights to go home thought it would be better to try to get out earlier. And by noon on Saturday, which is really supposed to be only the third day, it's supposed to be a 4-day weekend, so many people had left. All the time I was wandering around there, down where the event was being held, I kept looking out for some people that I knew were there, that I'd met last year and I wanted to say hi to. Ben Azadi was there. Didn't see not a glimpse of him. Annette Bosworth, Dr. Bos, was there. Never caught a glimpse of her anywhere. I don't think she was actually scheduled to speak until long after I left on Saturday, because I wanted to beat the weather home too. But I'm glad I did go on Saturday, even though it was another drive over there, another parking lot fee. It was worth it, but I did get home early enough to do my live stream yesterday afternoon, which of course started off as a nightmare of technical problems for those of you that have watched. Anyway, excuse me while I beat my eggs. Thank you. Anyway, I wanted to knock out a little video for today. It's been a long time since I've skipped a day. I thought I'd skip today, and I said, no, why not? Let's just tie a bow on this whole weekend and talk at this conference and the adventure that I had, cook my breakfast, and really get down to the heart of carnivore and the regular things that I do tomorrow. I don't regret going. I had a great time. I think I've made some contacts there that might be interesting in the future. And you can't know too many people in this space, that's for sure. The conference further reinforced my thoughts about why carnivore is really the best way to go. It was evident by the products that were being sold and the fact it seemed that most of the attendees were relatively new to the concept of low carb, keto, and all that. So many of the ones that have actually successfully done it have settled into their lifestyle. Don't need to come to these conferences because they've learned what they need to learn. Maybe they're not severe carb addicts like most of us are and can do the keto. But by the amount of stuff that was sold there, the amount of the sweet keto treats, I think so many of them are going to learn the hard way. What most of us have learned already, what took me 50 years to learn, is that to succeed on a new lifestyle that's meat and fat heavy, you need to abstain from carbs in order to cure that addiction. You may reduce your addiction by being keto. If you can handle that, then keto is probably okay for you. Not as severe as carnivore is, but it works for a lot of people. But each of us has to be honest with ourselves, introspective, admit to ourselves what has been screwing us up our whole lives, why we keep dieting, and then why we keep regaining the weight. Come to terms with that and give up those last 10 or 20 grams a day of carbs. When you put it that way, instead of 300 grams of carbs a day, you're trying to keep it under 20. The distance from 20 to 0 is not that far. Not that far in numbers, but it's a world away in addiction management, in physiology, in chemistry, in mindset, and everything else. It's why I'm here on YouTube. It's what worked for me after a lifetime. Finally, no thoughts of any of that junk. Will I go back next year? I have mixed emotions, and it depends on who's going to be there, which speakers, which influencers are going to be there. If Ken and Nisha decide that they're coming back, I will absolutely go. If Kelsey tells me he's coming back, I'll probably go. I didn't just go. I went because it was an adventure for me. It was an adventure. It was after a year of doing nothing but making carnivore videos, let's get out of the house, out into the world a little bit. I enjoyed the drive over there. Didn't hit a lot of traffic, managed to time all those right. I relaxed on the drive. I wasn't in any hurry. Listened to music. It was very enjoyable. I screwed up my sleep schedule completely, but evidently I'm healthy enough to withstand that because I never really lost my energy. I got home on Saturday to these technical problems I've been having, and I'll give you an update quickly on that. And by the time my breakfast will be ready. I was having a problem with my upload speed to the internet. Right after the live stream yesterday, I attacked it. I started troubleshooting it. I'm 99% sure that I fixed it. I isolated it down to the one cable that ran from my Spectrum modem to my wireless router. I replaced that cable, done 20 or 30 speed tests since, and they all work perfectly. I get great upload speed. Created a couple of unlisted live streams, which nobody got to see, and I used them just to test it, and that all worked fine. This morning, I did something to my whole computer system that I've been meaning to do, and it took me all morning to do, but I have rewired all the power for every gizmo in my studio, in my office there, so that it all works off my uninterruptible power supply. So in case of a power failure, that backup power supply will power everything. All the network infrastructure, the wireless router, the modem, the computer, even the floodlight that's over my head. And it'll power that for about 20 minutes. I have one plug that plugs that in. When I unplug that one plug, everything that is required for me to go online with no power in the house, assuming that the Spectrum still has power and my internet connection is still working. One plug, when I pull that one plug, it switches everything to backup power, which is good for 20 minutes. Then I'm going to take my new EcoFlow 1 kW backup power supply and plug my UPS into it. So I tested that today. And my entire system, my entire office and all the electronics and everything I need to keep a live stream alive will run for almost 4 hours on that one charge without having to resort to solar or anything else. And that's perfect because there's no way I would ever need more than 2 hours. So even if I'm sitting in the dark before the live stream starts, I have a way now to power the whole mess for at least 3 or 4 hours, depending on, doesn't matter what's happening outside, unless Spectrum goes out, which is a possibility, but normally that stays up during power failures. So that's what I accomplished today. And it feels good because I've been meaning to do those things for a week or two. And I'm going to be continuing to test my upload speed at different times during the day to make sure that there isn't a problem on their end of the internet modem, not my end. But so far it looks pretty good, so I'm hoping that when Tuesday comes along and I do my live stream, we'll start right out of the gate with me moving and not freezing like the good old days. So wish me luck. I'm going to eat my breakfast and get to work editing this video to get it out today. Thanks for watching. Take the rest of the day off and eat meat.